Hey guys, welcome back. I'm going to do a quick video on how to grow great tomatoes and tips and tricks. So I hope you enjoy. Now I'm going to show you this bed. I have not trimmed these up yet, and I'll show you a bed that I did trim up. So the first tip on how to grow great tomatoes is to trim up your plants. Okay? Let me see if I can get you in closer. Okay. So I have bean plants back there, but you can see, here's my tomato plant. Now you can see there's no lower leaves on the stem. Nothing. And you can see the nubs where I've trimmed them off, okay? And then going up, what do you see? So here's my first set of fruit, okay? And I'm gonna trim this one off today and probably this one right here. So if you want great tomatoes, you need to trim your plants up. You need to trim them up because they have leaves on the top, see? That are getting all the sun. They're doing their thing. But these bottom ones, they still get sun, but they are pulling nutrients and everything from your fruit. And we want it to go to your fruit. So trim them up as they grow. And I usually leave one or two leaves around the fruit because it can shield it from pests and other stuff. But as it grows, see, going up, so there's a sucker. I'm going to pull that right now. As it goes up, you'll get more sets of fruit, and you need to keep trimming up your fruit. You need to keep trimming up your plant to keep it healthy. See, there's the first set of fruit. There's some more. Okay, right here. So I'm going to do this bed today, and I'm going to take you to one that I already did. Alright, so I did this one yesterday, and this bed has multiple different types of tomatoes, okay? So, but you can see I have trimmed them up, okay? And trimming up your tomatoes does another thing. It helps keep blight off your tomatoes, because blight is diseases that gets introduced from the ground. Like if it rains, this can splash up and hit the leaves, and it will start giving you diseases, and you'll see little round spots, black spots, yellow. It'll be yellowing. I mean, that's another tip. You do it just because you want them to go up and you want them to trellis up so that you can keep diseases down. The second tip is to always sucker your plants. You need to sucker your plants because you don't want multiple leaders. Now, some of these I didn't sucker in time, and they have multiple leaders, and it's already too late. Okay, see this one? See, I had cut this nub. This was a leaf, and then you see this big thing right here. This was a sucker, and it came out to be 2 leaders. Now I have 2 leaders. I have one going here and one here. You only want 1 leader. If you have 2, you can leave it. I'm going to leave it because both of them will give you, fruit, but I'm not going to get as big as tomatoes. So see your fruit? The second tip is to sucker your tomatoes. And let me see if I can find a sucker on these. All right, here's a sucker, okay? See how this is the main stem right here? And you see the leaf right here. You can see the leaf right here. This is a sucker. You want to pull those. You don't want to let that stay. So you can either pinch it off if it's small enough, see? Or you can cut it off. See, do I have any more? See, right here, look. Now this one already split into 2 and it has fruit on it, so I'm going to leave it. But this was a sucker. If you wanted to pull this off and put it in some water, it would root. And then you could plant it and you'd have another tomato plant. See? Look at my tomatoes. These are Romas, and they're just starting to set. There. So tip 1 was to trim up your tomatoes. Tip 2, you need to sucker them. It will help your plants. These I let go for way too long, and I did not sucker them. And when you trim up your tomatoes, it's also giving another benefit. It's giving airflow. You need airflow, especially for tomatoes if you live in a very humid climate. I live in a humid climate. If you do, when you're trimming it up, and then sometimes you can take off some more leaves in the middle when it starts to get too bunched at the top. It helps the airflow pass through, see? See how the airflow is just, it's coming both ways, top and bottom, and through the grates or my grates, even through the tomato cages. It helps the airflow so you keep diseases down also. That's another benefit. And you have to remember, you only sucker indeterminate tomatoes, and it should tell you on the seed packet, or you can look it up online, whatever variety you have. Only sucker indeterminate. These are indeterminate. I have some determinate, which are right here, and these are Rutgers. These I do not sucker, so they're just going wild. And they set their fruit out all at once, so I'm not worried about that. Okay, here's a good example. I'll show you this. So I have not taken care of these tomatoes yet. Let me see if I can get on that side. I know it's hard to see, but see all this bushy part at the bottom? You don't want this. Pinch them off. Take them off. It's not going to hurt your plant. Remove those lower leaves, okay? Make it go up. You see that right in the middle? See, it's right in the middle of this plant. This is a sucker. Rip it off. Now this will help this plant grow up and go up and put its energy into making your fruit. Now my third tip would be to always, whenever you see the fruit start to set, so when you start seeing your flowers, fertilize it. And I always sprinkle it at the base. I have tomato feed from the store. It's organic. You can get whatever you can afford. It doesn't have to be organic. You sprinkle it around the base, and I usually try to move this back a little bit, sprinkle it around the base, and then I water it in immediately. Okay? You have to feed your plant. Every time I see a new set of flowers, I feed it, because if you don't ever feed it, it's not going to grow. It's just like you. You have to have food to grow. So it's the same thing with the plants. Treat it like that. And tip number 4 is, do not water your leaves. When you're watering, you don't water up here. That's useless. Don't do that. Don't water your leaves. It just introduces more opportunities for diseases. When you're watering, take your hose and you stick it right here and put it at the base. Water it in at the base, even if you're doing basic watering every other day, because I only water my plants every other day. Now if it's extremely hot, near in the upper 90s, and we have really high humidity, I'll do it every day. But otherwise, I don't water it every day. But when I do water it at the base. You're not watering the leaves. Your plant doesn't get water from its leaves. It gets it from its roots. So water it at the roots. All right, now tip number 5. I don't know if you can see it. It's very bright out today. Have some type of covering. I have straw that I've let sit in my shed since last year, and I knew that this straw was okay because I had used it on my garden last year. I use something to keep the moisture in. Get something to keep the moisture in. You see how this whole bed is got the straw in it, and I do that for everything. I mean, these are peppers. Put it in there so when you do water, it retains the moisture, because if you just have it bare like this, what's going to happen? The sun's going to beat down and it's going to dry it out faster. And that's how I can water every 2 to 3 days, depending on how hot it is because I have a covering. You need some type of mulch. I wouldn't recommend wood chips because I have that in my garden. Wood chips, to me, unless they've sat for a long time, I wouldn't use them because they like to suck up water and stuff. But I use the straw or hay, whatever you can get it without it being treated with chemicals. That's what I use, and it works just fine. I've never had a problem with it. All right, my next tip is not to overwater. A lot of people water every single day, and it's not necessary unless you're in extreme heat. Then I water every day, okay? But watering too much will turn your leaves yellow, and it also helps introduce more diseases. Now right here I have not put the straw yet because I just planted these not long ago, and these were leftover tomato plants. I just couldn't let them die. It just made me sad to let them die, so I stuck them right here. I'm gonna get some more hay and put it down. But overwatering can also make your plants look really terrible and yellow. So don't overwater your plants. If you have something covering the bottom, like right here I have the straw and stuff, it will keep its moisture in. I watered these yesterday and we've had really hot temps. So if I go down here and I move it, yes, it's still really wet soil, okay? And we've had warm weather. So don't overwater your plants. Make sure you have a covering and don't overwater them. If you want healthy looking plants, follow these tips. And the next tip I have is sort of just more of a don't, because a lot of people, especially older gardeners, which you get a lot of wisdom from older gardeners, but they say when you see your first set of fruit, so this on this plant, this is this first set of fruit right here, the flowers that are forming, they say pinch it off. Why? They say, oh, because it puts, energy to make more fruit. Well, you just pinched off your fruit. As long as you are fertilizing with some type of feed every single time you see a new set of fruit starting to, the flowers starting to form on there, you don't ever have to pinch off your fruit. You're just wasting fruit you could have had. So don't pinch it off. Just feed it. Feed your plants. Make sure they're watered good enough, not overwatered, and you'll have lots of fruit. That I've never done because I thought it was ridiculous. And I'm sorry if that offends anyone, but it's the truth. You don't have to pinch off your fruit. You're wasting fruit you could have had. Tomatoes that I could have had. I'm not pinching off my stuff. Make sure it's fertilized. Guys, I have searched high and low on all of my plants, and I cannot find any aphids, and that was going to be my next tip, was to turn over your leaves. And sometimes you can see if you have a really heavy infestation of them, they'll be all over your plant, but sometimes they're on the underside of your leaves and you'll be able to see them. They look like they have clear to light pinkish bodies, and it's a bunch of bugs that are just scattered all over your leaves, and you'll be able to see them. Now aphids, you need to treat the aphids to get rid of them. Now one way you can do this is when I find out I have an aphid infestation, I will cut off any of the lower ones, the lower leaves of my tomato plants. Let me pinch that off. I'll cut these off if they're full of them, and I will take them, put them in a pile and burn them, okay? Another way to do it is to treat them with either pesticides or organic means. Now I use the neem oil. It's one of my favorites, but you have to know how to apply the neem oil. You don't do it in the heat of the day. I usually try to do it in the late dusk and you spray when you spray them, because if you do it in the heat of the day, you will burn your plants. So either very, very, very early morning or in the afternoon. And I just wait until the afternoon, so it gives it all night for it to sit. But when you spray, you have to spray the undersides too. You can't just spray the tops with the neem oil or whatever. There's insecticidal soaps and other things that you can use also. You have to get the underside of your leaves to treat them, okay? And when you use the neem oil, you have to be very careful to do it at dusk or very early morning. And I usually just wait till dusk. It's better than morning, because sometimes it gets really hot during the days and it will just scorch your plants to death. But you treat the aphids so they're not sucking the nutrients from your plants. You want to be able to get fruit, get your bounty, because you've worked hard for it. You don't want to see it go to the bugs. So remember to treat your plants if you find aphids. I wish I had an example, but I do not, and I've searched and I cannot find it on these plants. I guess this is a good thing, but would have been good to be able to show you. And my last tip is to plant other plants around your tomatoes that are good companion plants, okay? Some people say companion planting is useless. That is not true. And anyone who says that has never really companion planted, because I had this entire front full of onions and nothing touched my plants. Not one thing. And I've also had garlic interspersed in here too, but they were ready, so I had to harvest them. But you can see that I have onions. I have onions growing right next to the tomatoes, and I have some nasturtium. See? And then I also have marigolds. I have one right there. Here's a marigold right here. And marigolds are great because they don't like the smell. Every time a new flower pops up, let's see if there's a flower. Yeah. I put it on the rim of my garden. See the flowers? Once they get bigger and they die off, I pop the heads off and I rip them open and I throw them on the ground. Because the smell of this flower is everywhere, and they do not like the smell of marigolds. So I put them around the rim. I also have chives, anything with the onion family, they do not like. And then I put some pollinators. So I have calendula right here. I have zinnias. Pretty flower about to open. And then all these right here in the front, these are all flowers. They're all getting ready to open soon. Companion planting is great for all of your garden, not just tomatoes, but tomatoes do benefit from it. So find the companion plants, especially ones you like to plant. Put them with them. It's not going to hurt anything. On the other side, I have another row of onions. Let me show you. I have another nasturtium right here. And then I have more onions that go all the way down. And then I have more. I have more down here. More marigolds and more onions. Okay? Utilize the space that you have, especially for your tomatoes. If they're going to grow up, and you know they're going to grow up, plant some onions next to it. It's not going to hurt anything, and it will give you extra food. Okay? None of these hurt each other. Companion planting is great. Just like over here, I have beans, I have basil. They go good together, and the basil helps repel bugs. Just like in this bed, I have leeks. Leeks are a great thing for your beds too, and it's a good repellent. And also a great companion plant, and I mean great, for tomatoes is borage. This is borage. I grew this from seed. I got a packet at Rural King for $1. It was amazing. See all the flowers about to open? Supposedly, borage helps give better flavor to your tomatoes. And I believe it. Last year my tomatoes were extremely flavorful. And it doesn't hurt anything for this plant to grow next to it. It's not going to hurt your tomatoes. I actually have one back there too. Okay. I have a whole bed of amaranth that's getting eaten because the bugs like the amaranth better than my plants. This is my sacrificial bed. Okay. To keep my other stuff good. So, borage is amazing. I have flowers in the front. I have more nasturtium and another borage. Okay. Companion plant, it's worth it. And basil. Oh, basil is a great one for tomatoes. Now I have different types of basil. I have lemon basil. I think it's called Genovese basil. I have purple basil. I have Persian basil. Interplant it. I didn't do that this year. I can start some more. It's still early in the season. I'll put some right here. Use your basil when your tomatoes ripen and make a salsa. So use the companion plants for your tomatoes and for other plants to help grow them big and strong, because you obviously want a lot of fruit. These are my tips. Don't forget any of these tips and you'll grow great tomatoes. Ooh, it's getting hot. Ugh. Muggy days are here to stay for East Tennessee and hot weather. Thanks for joining me today. Hope you use some of these tips and tricks in your own garden. Try them out. Even if you're skeptical, just try them out and see how they do. You get a bigger yield if you have less pest. All these things matter when you're gardening. There's nothing worse than having all your hard work go to nothing because pests got it. So try these tips and tricks, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Let's see if we can find treasure. Treasure! Zucchini! See if we can find more treasure. Oh, they're so beautiful, squashes. Let's see what else we can find. Oh. Blue Hubbard squash. On the hunt for more treasure. Spaghetti squash. Let's see if I can remember them all. I cannot.